Good evening. On behalf of the governing body of the City of Passaic, we welcome you to the April 18th, 2024 City Council meeting. In accordance with Chapter 231 Public Laws of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by resolution of the Municipal Council adopted on June 13th, 2023, setting forth the schedule of meetings for the year 2023-2024. Said notice was published and posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board by the Office of the City Clerk. Please be further advised, this public meeting will be conducted in person. The Zoom stream provided is for viewing only and is offered to the public as a convenience. On April 3rd, 2024, public notice and Zoom instructions for this meeting were published in the Herald News and posted on the City of Passaic website at www.cityofpassaic.com. Council agenda. Instructions are also available on the last page of this agenda. Please be guided accordingly.
Roll call, please, ma'am.
Councilwoman Mello,
Present.
Councilman Schwartz,
Present.
Councilman Garcia,
Present.
Councilwoman Colón Montañez,
Present.
and Council President Shear.
President, should we all please rise?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to meet this evening. Lord, as we go through this meeting, Lord, we ask you to please guide us in every decision that will take place this evening. In your beloved name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see each council member has received a copy of, Mr. Fernandez, help me, this is, I know this was discussed at our last meeting, is this just?
Yeah, so there was just one clarification. If you look under hazardous trees, I guess when the cut and paste happened from the state law to our law, those 5 items were not included. And that is critical because those 5 items exempts you from the ordinance. So Susie and I were reviewing the agenda and we noticed that that wasn't in there and we added it because it's really critical as part of the ordinance.
It basically says with more specifics what a hazard tree is.
This is for second reading?
Second reading.
Does it need to be
No, this is just a clarification.
So did the state not do their job or we didn't do our job? I'll bet it's the state, $1 to 1.
I believe at the last council meeting, the council members had asked for more detail and clarity. So it could have been passed without it, but this is just explaining the details of what's exempt. Because I believe Councilman Schwartz had requested to know whether trees on sidewalks were affected, whether trees on public property, private property, as well as the diameter in terms of exempt trees. So this further clarifies it. But we checked with the attorney and we do not believe that it impacts the ordinance in any way, just clarifies it. The same thing that was voted on last meeting would be the same thing this meeting.
I believe it also asks for clarity on this. This appears to be restricting trees on private property.
That's correct.
Excuse me, Councilman, that means it does affect private property or does not?
Yes, that was what was answered last council meeting.
It does affect private property, but this is not, it's required by the state, so, and it is affecting private property.
Yeah, I believe every municipality was required to adopt it by May 1st. Is that the date?
Yeah, I believe it was the.
Every municipality in the state, by the state, is required to adopt this by May 1st.
So this is that's why this is the second and final reading.
Councilman Garcia?
Wait, if I have a tree in my back property, backyard, would I, that tree is on my way, would I be able to cut it?
It depends on what tree it is in terms of, you can always cut a tree. This affects you having to apply for a permit for a tree. So again, and we used the example at the last meeting, if it's a cherry blossom and it's a certain size, not an issue. You cut it. If it's a tree that falls under the description of the law, you have to put in, yes, Madam Clerk, is there? Oh yeah, look back, I didn't know if that was on. So it does depend, but the ordinance itself, and I believe that it specifies what are exempt trees and what are not. And I think it reads, you can read it in detail there.
There's different categories of trees.
Right. So the hazardous tree in this list of 5 items, If it was if they met one of these 5 items, you wouldn't need a permit, and you wouldn't need a replacement. And then,
And also, if you're replacing less than 4 trees on an acre lot, you do not have to replace the tree.
right, you still need a permit, but you don't need to replace. So it's really going to be on a case-by-case basis if
So
you
this
need
is-
to replace it or not, and if it's a hazardous tree or not, or if there's a permit or not. So
I think it's important to clarify that by case, we don't imply that there's some subjective
oh, no, no.
assessment of what tree constitutes replacement. There are very clear parameters and description given by the state, and I can't stress this enough. This is from the state. It's a mandate from the state. This was not created by municipal government. This was not presented out of the mayor's office or the council. This is the state, and it applies to every municipality. We actually had a conversation earlier about how many properties do we realistically or reasonably expect would be impacted. And we have identified that there are very few private properties with over 4 trees in 1 acre of land. However, again, this would require replacement and permit application regarding trees both on private property or property in public, and sidewalks are your property. And sidewalks are the property of.
No, only of a
will
certain
this-
size.
Yes,
Will this require a formal process on behalf of the municipality to ensure that things are being done correctly? Does this mean we have to hire someone to do that? And will the
No.
people be, and if the inspector comes out, who's responsible? Is charge going to be made to the homeowner?
Well, people, I want to make sure I understand your question. You have to, if you fall within the range that this covers, which is a DBH of 2.5 or greater, or if you are or want to remove more than 3 trees per acre, once you hit the 4th tree, you have to get the permit. An inspector,
When you say
not
forgive me, when you say get a permit,
to remove,
the permit is in fact automatic or it is not automatic?
so there would be a
Yeah, right.
process similar to every permit application in the city. So any work that's being done on someone's property, whether construction or otherwise, requires a permit. The similar process would be for a permit to request to remove a tree that falls under this. Where it may be a bit of a challenge in terms of day-to-day operations and whether we would have to hire someone to the administration or consider the budget is the transition period. So there's going to be a number of issues, I believe, that we'll have with people trying to assess or ascertain whether that tree falls into that category once the information. I believe there's going to be there has to be, and I want to give the state the benefit of the doubt, that there's going to be time for us to implement this appropriately. It isn't going to be May 2nd, you remove a tree and we're coming down on you. The request is obviously that we would approve it, as every municipality has been asked in the state of New Jersey. The implementation in terms of the administrative approach, I believe those are conversations for us to have. So if we're going to say the permit process involves an inspection, the permit process is they apply, and it's an automatic granted permit to remove a tree. We're meeting the letter of the law that they needed to apply a permit. I think those are deeper conversations. But right now, what we have before us and want to make clear was a request, not even a request, a directive from the state that every municipality is to pass this by May 1st.
And is there a where if clause here? City does not hire personnel to do this work?
Oh, you mean if the city would hire people to take down their trees?
No,
Oh.
no, I go to my backyard and I cut down 5 trees. What happens? Does the state come in and find me? Does the municipality act on the state's behalf?
well, that would be for the municipality to go in and see that there were 5 trees cut down without the permit and without the proper, well, you have 12 months to replant, but that would be for the municipality to enforce.
And how would the municipality know how high a tree can be?
We have that in ordinance.
That's part of the ordinance?
Yes,
Right, this is another way for the state to spend our money.
correct.
Good, okay. With the council's permission, we're,
You have Councilman Monk, so
Councilman, forgive me, I didn't see you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. DBH under the size, right? So that's the measuring going around?
And I apologize because I actually drew a circle for the diameter and I misplaced the paper, but it's pretty much like this big. It's roughly the diameter of the tree that you can cut before you fall into the ordinance. So, it's not, obviously, if you have a big oak tree, if you have a huge oak tree that you have to bear hug, you need a permit. But if it's a mid-sized tree, roughly about a foot wide, you don't fall within the definition of this ordinance. And again, to continue with the mayor's words, these numbers was dictated by the state. If you look at the ordinance that they gave us, there's very few sections you're allowed to even touch, and none of it has to do with diameters of trees. So what you see here is pretty much a cut and paste of the state's ordinance.
So every municipality in the state of New Jersey is passing this ordinance?
Every municipality was directed to pass this ordinance by May 1st.
But by who, which department do you?
The state of New Jersey, and I believe this is coming from the DEP.
So if I have a tree that I can't even bear hug. You need a permit.
Yes.
You need a
Okay.
permit.
But how many trees have to replace that with?
So I believe that you can,
There's
so
a
the number is
table.
5 in 1 acre. If you have
Four.
more, yeah, if you have more than 4 on 1 acre, you are required to replace.
So
More than
So
four
the
what?
diameter,
If you-
the
More than four
diameter
what?
is in the ordinance. It
If you-
says,
there's the replacement tree section.
Okay, so it says here DBH of 33 inches or greater. You have to replant 4 trees with a minimum tree caliber. Now, how do you measure a caliber?
so the caliber is the full circle. So basically what you do is and we had to do a lot of geometry in my office. I went through it with the staff. So you look at the diameter of it, and then that creates the full circumference of the tree. And if that tree meets that circumference, that diameter of the tree, then that's the size.
So there's DBH and then there's calipers.
Mhm.
So what's the difference between a caliper and a DBH?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
I'm
So
saying,
it reads calculated by multiplying the diameter at breast height DBH, diameter at breast height.
the breast height, that's the DBH, has this, how round, this whole circle.
Yes, so at breast height, so you're
I take
you're
a- I
not
take a
checking
measure.
20 feet up,
Right.
you're not checking inch to the ground. At breast height, or what reasonably can be described as breast height.
Okay, so if I go around, okay, and it's 4 feet going around, 48 inches going around, let's say, right?
Then
So
it's
it says-
above the 33,
What's that?
then that surpasses the number. You would have to get a permit.
So I have to get a permit. So I get a permit for $50. Number of trees is $50.
Okay.
Up
Now-
to 5 trees.
Up to 5
It's
trees.
only one
Can I make
$50 charge.
A practical suggestion here, because and very much, I know I speak on behalf of the entire council, Mayor, and thanking you and Mr. Fernandez for investigating this matter further. It's most appreciated. But I think that there's a lot of information that we're not being told here. I'm not familiar with the state having passed a regulation like this without approval of other bodies. I think there must be over 500 municipalities today scratching their head wondering what this is about. And I, for one, would like to know what it's about, because I don't understand this at all. Am I the only one in such a position? Does this make sense to people?
I mean,
I'm only asking because
I think it's.
I concur with Council President, because the reason I'm trying to understand this is because if I get a phone call tomorrow, you passed an ordinance, you explain it to me, I want to be able to explain it. Not that I pass on it without understanding it. Otherwise I look like a total fool and I vote on something that I don't understand.
But I was just looking at a
So
picture, so if you look
I just want to understand what a caliper is, what a DBH is, and what a replacement
I
requires.
think
I read
that's-
this a few times. I still cannot figure it out.
I think that's fair. The only thing I would ask the council to consider, perhaps I would propose this better. If the question is, what is it that we're doing here. And the attorney has researched it and has, to a certain extent, and I'll leave the attorney to speak to herself, verified that this comes from the state. I would ask, because I'm not sure in terms of us being able to pass this before May 1st. And perhaps I'm considering this through the lenses of the administration, as today's my first day having to wear glasses. Just got 'em. So I'll throw that in there, right? That we have often been recognized with best practices of government for doing according to what the state would request outside of anything that is outrageous or unreasonable. That at the previous council meeting, obviously, all the council members were aware of this because there was concern and conversation. And of course, if there were questions and we asked any questions, we brought back the information specific to the questions that were posed about this. If there are further questions, that we would have them, because the ability to understand the ordinance is important. However, we have to respond as administration to the state as to why we did not pass it. The direction we gave prior notice and appropriate notice of the date. At the previous meeting, we obviously gave the agendas beforehand, and then at the last meeting, it was clear that there was concern, and we specifically said if there are any questions, and we received them and had the attorney research them. This is not our directive. So,
in all due respect, Mayor, I don't think that the state is going to take an attitude of you were given this 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago or a month ago, and you're not passing it, and you're in violation.
perhaps I do
I
know.
feel very confident on that position.
Sure. There is a press release from the NJDP explaining the need for us to pass it. That wasn't the point necessarily. If the state decides not to enforce it, great. I believe that would be beneficial to us if we're not going to pass it.
Forgive me, I'm not suggesting if this is law.
Yeah.
Then of course it's something which must be followed. There's no hesitation on any of our parts. What the question is, I mean, I don't understand it at all.
Understood.
And I don't understand, and admittedly, because of my involvement in government and the state level, I'm somewhat familiar with how things work, and this just does not seem to.
No, I don't think that's the point. I know that our BA wants to share that it's part of the stormwater management passing, but all I'm saying is if we're required to pass it by May 1st, I just want to be sure that the council is aware that we, as of right now, don't have a scheduled meeting that would allow us to pass this before May 1st. We don't know if every municipality has passed it. We only know that it is a directive from the state and that we provided the information that we were given and then responded to the questions that were posed at the last meeting. If there is any further clarity that we cannot have here, then obviously I understand, but if the questions aren't posed and we don't respond, then the lack of understanding seems to be, unless there's a belief that the attorney, the business administrator, those involved aren't going to be able to answer those questions.
I respectfully, I think that it is in the city's best interest to have full clarity on this. And I join Councilman Monk in terms of if a constituent comes up to me and says, tell me about this, I feel very unsure of myself. And I think that having someone from the state here to brief the council would be a very positive thing to do. I'd be happy in my other role to ask the state to bring someone to a future meeting, or if the administration would like to do that, that's fine too. But I think that there's some questions here. The questions of finance. Do we have to hire someone to do this? Does the person have to take courses? I mean, there's a whole slew of questions. Is the person part of code enforcement?
Of course, Council President. The only challenge is that wouldn't be a question for the state. It would be for this governing body.
Not in terms of implementation. It
Yes.
would probably not be within the authority of the body. It probably would be within the authority of the state to determine what exactly is necessary. But I mean, rather than go back and forth, I mean, respectfully, I think that we need some more clarity here. But before we would go ahead and pass it, if the only clarity being that we found out that 100 other municipalities passed it, and we'll go along with it too, I guess. Why don't we move on, and when we come to the ordinance, if there's further discussion, we can go there if that would be acceptable. With the council's permission, Mayor, your update.
Council President, members of the City Council, and those present here. I wanted to update that on Tuesday, April 19th, we had a fire safety seminar for our Silver seniors. We want to thank our fire department. Over 70 seniors were in attendance and were taught how to prevent, respond to, and reduce the risks of associated fires. Not to take too much of a morbid turn, but obviously we had loss of life of senior citizens as a result of a fire, and we felt that this was extremely important. So we were thankful to the fire department and to all the seniors. We will continue to do these throughout the year. We also held a free rabies vaccine clinic on April 13th at Armory Memorial Park. We had veterans bring their dogs here to Armory Park and receive rabies shots and be able to register their dogs, as well as many residents. We had over 60 cats and 130 dogs that were registered and vaccinated. So we were extremely excited. There was also an event on the same day with the Boricuaneers, which had a dedication of Puerto Rican veterans, or veterans of Puerto Rican cultural heritage, citizens who obviously fought for our nation. And there was a beautiful dedication here by the Latino Veterans Association of the state of New Jersey. We also had the Autism Awareness event, April 13th, in collaboration with our Youth Council, our Recreation Department, where a range of organizations and services were offered in support for families. We had over 50 participants and organizations that attended this amazing program, which involved our Passaic Police Autism Division, our Special Needs Program, our Alzheimer's Registry Group, our Circle of Care, and the Passaic County. I want to announce to the public and those watching online that our housing rehabilitation program is open for applications. The City of Passaic Rehabilitation Program can assist homeowners whose houses need to be refurbished. The program is designed to assist owner occupants of 1 to 3 family homes in making necessary major system repairs to their homes and can receive up to $20,000 per unit. Eligibility is based on income, family size, and the type of improvement. For more information, please contact the Department of Community Development at 973-365-5613, 973-365-5613. If you do not qualify, you can also look into our tenant rental rehab program, which you could contact at the same number. And this allows homeowners agreeing to rent their additional units to low, moderate income families for a minimum of 5 years. For more information, you can receive up to $20,000 as a federal program. So we're very excited about that. We want to share that our Community Resilient Communities program in the City of Passaic will be receiving $5 million. Governor Phil Murphy reached out via text directly to me as mayor to announce the City of Passaic will be receiving $5 million to fund the local flood hazard mitigation project located at the New Jersey Transit underpass on Passaic Avenue between Van Houten Avenue and Lackawanna Place. Recent storm events have caused damage to public and private property, as well as loss of life in this location. And as a result, the city is taking proactive measures to implement flood mitigation to protect the public. This funding will be used towards the construction of a stormwater pumping station, a wet well, and large detention basin. We're so very excited as part of our commitment, especially in my administration, was to address the issues on Van Houten. And this was a full allocation of the amount available. So we're so very excited. We also are receiving, and Congressman Bill Pascal reached out last week personally as well, to say we are awarded $1.6 million for the McDonald Brook and Benson Avenue realignment flood control project. As I've mentioned to the public before, we have invested in green infrastructure. We have done some street elevation, added some storm drains and inlet. The parking lot that was created on Brook Avenue, as well as the work with the county on the bridge in Covert by High Street. All of this together has greatly reduced the instances of flooding, and we had witnessed it over the last 3 storms. We literally had police out there as well as engineering, and we have seen drastic improvement on the flooding issues in that area. But with this additional funding and investment in infrastructure to address these areas of concern, we believe that we have come a long way, and we're so very grateful for the opportunity to work responsibly with the state and federal government. Our Columbia Ave and Jefferson Ave parking lot will be ready next week, April 23rd, and this lot will have 23 additional spaces, yet another lot with additional public spaces for the community. We are extremely excited about hundreds and hundreds of spaces developed over the last 3 years alone, and we'll continue to announce them and share them with the council and the public. Our citywide initiative of DPW driving through wards to assess and fix potholes on the roads has resulted just in the last 30 days with 72 potholes being fixed. Some of the ones done recently include Burgess Place, Myrtle Ave, South and 9th Street, Passaic Street, Van Houten and Park Ave, Harrison, Hope, Prospect, Pennington, Dwazine, Brook Ave, Elmwood and Amsterdam, 4th Street, 3rd Street, Chestnut, Gregory Ave, Oak Street, the Dead End near Main Ave and Lafayette Ave. We remind the public that during the winter, the impact of the snow, salting, and plowing takes a toll on our cars and on our streets. But again, as we do every spring, we invest in ensuring that we're addressing potholes, resurfacing, and milling and paving of our roads. I also want to share that the NJDOT 2023 Local Aid and Safe Streets to Transit Grant, the city was awarded a grant of $1.4 million last year from New Jersey DOT to upgrade traffic signals on Acre Ave, Passaic Ave, and create ADA compliant, ADA for those who are not familiar, is Americans with Disabilities Act, compliant sidewalk at Prospect Street, Gregory Avenue, and Passaic Avenue intersection. This is currently in process and is expected to be completed by the end of this summer. Our UEZ camera surveillance system under our administration, the UEZ applied and was approved for the installation of new surveillance cameras at various intersections in our UEZ business district. We have received funding for 13 new cameras to be placed in strategic areas throughout the business district to ensure public safety for business and shoppers, protect property, and prevent crimes, with additional cameras being placed at the points of entrance and exits of Route 21, Route 3, and points of entrance and exits into the city with direct license plate readers. This will greatly enhance and assist our police in identifying individuals, as well as working collaboratively with the county and state law enforcement to ensure that we can address any issues of concern. Upcoming events: Tuesday, April 16th, we have our COVID-19 flu vaccination event, as this season has required more vaccines to be given. On Saturday, April 20th, we have our asphalt art event on Columbia Ave and Monroe Street. Allow me to clarify a little bit and invite the public to participate. Any volunteer, including council members who are available, can come and help us paint the road. We will paint the crosswalk and the middle of the road with a beautiful mural, a student awarded mural. This was not arbitrarily decided, nor was it a decision from the administration to pick whatever picture anyone liked, but rather many students and volunteers throughout our city participated in the contest, and the winning mural will be placed on the street in order to help enhance pedestrian safety, reduce the speed of traffic in that particular area. Our New Jersey motor vehicle,
Sorry, Mayor, what area is that again?
Columbia and Monroe.
Okay.
Columbia
I apologize.
and Monroe. Those of you who are wondering, the winning mural was a very detailed and specific portrait of Councilman Schwartz. So please come out and you'll verify whether that was true. I know our councilman is laughing, but that's what she drew. So April 23rd, our New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission mobile office will be here at the City of Passaic office, and they will be offering services to the mobile unit for the following: real IDs, duplicate replacement title, non-driver ID, and registration renewal appointments are required and can be made at the website. You can find it at our City Hall website. On Saturday, April 27th, we will have our passport clinic. Passport clinic for those who wish to have passport pictures, renew their child's passport, or take a new picture for your passport. Please come down April 27th to make an appointment and call our clerk's office. On Sunday, May 5th, our civic ceremony of Cinco de Mayo would occur as we do every single year. And there are a number of roads that we have already begun paving. I will spare all the announcements. Lastly, I would like to share two exciting initiatives. Well, I'll go with one and then maybe at the end during my mayor's report. Our efforts, and I want to commend our city clerk to have young people engaged in the election process, to work as poll workers, has again produced great fruit of success as we had a number of students work this election. I'll take a pause to congratulate the re-elected members of the Board of Education for the City of Passaic, President Daniel Rodriguez, Vice President Judith Sanchez, and Commissioner Rand Van Rensselaer. Congratulations. We want to thank all of the residents that participated and all the candidates that ran. But we did have our students participate and work. Well, I guess I will announce it. And for the first time, an initiative that I had announced a year ago, and we've been working closely to get, we were able to hire our first student on the spectrum, autistic student, who worked, and not only worked, but these are the words of our city clerk, did a spectacular, fantastic job, unsupervised, and we feel that we will be able to expand this program, a term that some people are not familiar with, falling off the cliff. We know that the state of New Jersey has the highest rate of children born on the spectrum. And many of the children receive services, early intervention and educational services, but something occurs when they become adults, where they age out of programs. The term has been coined falling off the cliff because it appears that all of the attention, wraparound services disappear. One of the approaches that I've directed through my administration is to develop programs of job training for adults with different abilities, including those on the spectrum, identify opportunities for employment. And we are presently in talks with the federal government and the state to develop a more involved program. There are interesting initiatives occurring. In fact, former President Steve Sweeney of the Senate is developing an initiative to help individuals work and live in the same building. We are looking to recreate similar programs with a different twist. But again, kudos to the city clerk, the work and the effort that she has put in with our youth, and the opportunity to work with you, City Clerk, to expand this program for our disabled adult community who are in desperate need of programs. And we want to thank our adult special needs program headed by Joe Colon. We've been able to expand initiatives and trips with them. With that stated, those are some of the announcements. I'll leave the rest for the end of the meeting as so much goes on day to day. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor. Questions for the mayor?
The only question I have for the motor vehicle that's coming and passport, it can be anyone, because some of the people from the school.
Appointments, it's expected that people make appointments. Obviously, if there are cancellations and there is room, however, we have found that doing appointments makes it much more effective.
But I mean, do they have to be from the state?
No, not for motor vehicles. It is a state agency. We want to thank our Assemblyman, Gary Scheer, in the 36th Legislative District. Obviously, these partnerships, providing these commissions to come and serve the people. However, because it is a state agency, it is not limited to residents. Anyone from the state can call and make an appointment.
How about the passport one?
The passports, if you call the city clerk, we expect that you will be able to get the service. I would prefer Passaic residents, but legally, and the attorney is here, I cannot restrict anyone from receiving a service that we provide when it comes to passports or any official documents.
Okay, thank you.
Very well.
Councilman Love, your line?
Yeah, Council President, just really a comment, and I've talked about it, how excited I am with the youth being involved. I mean, it just brings so much pleasure to my heart. And it was so funny to see that just as we suspected, they were the ones in charge of the technical part of it. Everywhere I went, they were sitting right in front of the computers and the sign-in boards and everything else. But it was good because like we thought and we suspected, and as a city clerk and the mayor kind of brought to fruition, that combination of veterans working the polling sites and the youth who's familiar, excited, it just was a whole different atmosphere in the polling booths. And I had an opportunity, and not an opportunity, I was more intentional this time to talk to the youth in their process, and they were just ecstatic. And not one time did they mention, the fees that they would be receiving, just the process and learning new things. So I just want to say I'm overwhelmed with that initiative, and I want to thank the administration and city clerk for it.
The fees that were mentioned is $21 an hour, and I believe $300 a day. Is that?
But it was that excitement.
It is important,
Yeah.
I share it only because with prom season coming up, graduation, it's such an opportunity for children that come from low income backgrounds to have an opportunity to work, to be involved in this most sacred democratic process, to be part of this civic duty and receive payment that's going to help for college, because it ties in. Some of them are eligible to receive college credits for working elections. So it's a great benefit. It's a wonderful initiative, and we've already heard that other municipalities want to copy it. So we're very excited. Great job.
I'll be busy.
Yes.
again.
Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, we're on to hearing of citizens. If, by the way, you're joining us tonight and you don't have a copy of tonight's agenda, you can get it on the city's website, the internet. We do not allow participation except by physical presence. If you would like to communicate with us in the future, you're not able to make a meeting, if you'd submit your questions to the city clerk, she'd be happy to take them down, and they will be addressed at a future meeting. A hearing of citizens, if I may. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-1 et sec, the council opens every public meeting for comments of the public. However, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12, nothing in this act shall be construed to limit the discretion of a public body to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation at any meeting. Therefore, please be advised that the council will not entertain any comments from persons who communicate obscene material, make statements which are considered bias, intimidation, in which a person intends to intimidate any individual or group because of race, color, religion, handicap, gender, sexual orientation, or ethnicity, or makes comments intending to harass or speak any offensive language. The person who makes these statements will relinquish their allotted 5 minutes for public discussion. We welcome the comments of anyone who is here. Is there anyone who would like to address the council at this time?
Yes, good evening. Joe Conoscente, 170 Broadway. Council President, my first question here is on these, what do you call them? On these zoning, like the alcohol beverage, they have a meeting tonight, and it's not for the public, it's for the Zoom. You've got like the,
It's difficult for me to hear you. I'm sorry, sir.
I'm saying like the alcohol beverage meeting, they have one tonight, and you could only go on Zoom. So my point is, you got the planning board, you got the redevelopment agency, you got all these boards, and they don't have no, how do you call it, in-person meetings. Everything's on Zoom. So I know you guys pick who's on the boards that I think you are responsible or give an answer on this issue. My next question here is the property on 147, 149 Broadway, the garbage in the front yard, the side alleyway, the backyard, something needs to be done with this property. Clean up, whatever has to be done here. Also, part of the roof is coming down. My second question here is Irving Place. It's a one side of the street parking, but here you got people coming there, they parking all on the sidewalk, blocking the road in case you got an emergency, you can't get through. The whole side is, to me, is illegally parking. There's one sign it's in the middle of the block and nobody seems to see it. There should be a tow zone. That's what that should be. If you tow the cars, they won't come back no more. Passaic Avenue and Acre Creek Avenue. On the last meeting, it sounded a good idea, and nobody seemed to reach out, and they never put the fence up for the safety around that 208 Passaic Avenue property where they tore the house down. My last question here is, on Saturday at 474 Main Avenue, the Armory Memorial, they had a service for the Latino veterans that I attended to. And a lot of questions were about the monument, why it looks so terrible. I'm just wondering if, I don't know, I think it was last year, or 2 years ago, they had a volunteer to clean the monuments. But, and then somebody painted the bottom foundation. I'm just wondering if there's anything here that could be done with this property, this cenotaph. Because it's very, it's horrible. These are my questions I have tonight.
Okay, thank you, sir. Madam Attorney, is there a requirement, or there are requirements requiring
Live meetings?
live
No,
meetings? They're
it's
not.
perfectly acceptable to have them by Zoom.
Mr. Fernandez, are you aware, do most of our boards or all of our boards offer the choice of Zoom or in person?
They're all Zoom.
They're all Zoom.
Yes.
And what would be the purpose for that?
To have enough individuals be present and have quorum for the meetings.
And when we didn't have Zoom available, we were not getting participation?
Not as frequently as we are now.
So in terms of the course of business of the city, we need the Zoom.
It's much more effective and efficient, if that's the question, Council President.
Could we offer both?
You could. There's nothing that would stop that from happening, but I think each board individually takes a look at their board members and their ability. So the chairperson of that board, typically, when we ask them how they want to hold the meeting, this is kind of the direction because of the success of having the meetings continuously. Because if you recall, it wasn't too long ago, and it might have been Mr. Condescenti himself who was talking about, constant posting of cancellation of meetings at the council and in the city hall doors.
Council President, I would add that many courts have continued Zoom. And the reason being, the ultimate goal is to have participation. At times, meetings can be canceled because an attorney has a conflict or is away, was called away on business. The goal is to ensure that the business of the city would continue, much like the courts. Zoom has allowed a resource where attorney who is not present can still present regarding a case. It's vitally important for the commissioners on the board to hear from experts, sometimes an architect, an engineer, a sound expert, considering the footprint or impact that an application may have in the neighborhood or in the city. They may not be available in person. Zoom has actually enhanced the ability for commissioners to ask questions, to bring in more individuals. Some residents who go, I can't be there in person, may participate or see the Zoom meeting later. So it has been of great benefits. We're not the only ones that do this. Other municipalities and even the courts have continued because of how effective a resource it's been for participation.
In terms of the gentleman's question, I don't think that any of us would doubt, and thank you for the clarity, Mayor. I don't think that any of us would doubt how positive Zoom has been. The question is, can we do both? Is there an expense involved? Is there difficulty? Is there planning involved? Is there personnel costs?
As to your answer, yes. In terms of a practical approach, and I want to thank the council on this, we find qualified individuals to volunteer. And we need them to be present in order to do the business of the city. The idea or the approach to make it as convenient as possible is a benefit to the city as a whole. If we were paying individuals, we can say, hey, get over here. If we had such a large pool of individuals for these volunteer services, the answer is yes, but I do believe that it's been of great benefit for those that are appointed by the council and those that are appointed or wish to volunteer to say, I can be involved in a way that does not necessarily disrupt. But when there are meetings that we require in person, or even if the council so chooses that direction, it can be done. We just want to highlight the great benefit. We have had to cancel less meetings, and we have had more professionals available that help the commissioners to make informed and educated decisions on whether they would approve projects or applications.
How about, last question on,
And if I may, Council President, I'm sorry, to go to your question of expense, that's one additional night that maintenance has to be here overnight to see to the meeting. So every meeting that's now on Zoom,
full-time
maintenance
officer.
individuals can-
It's a savings to the city
City as
as
well.
we utilize it.
Right.
Councilman Schwartz.
Yeah, if I could just echo that, even at the last planning meeting, there was a conflict with one of the commissioners, which would have precluded hearing an application. And there was enough time to track down an alternate, which would have been impossible if it were in person, and to have that alternate connect on Zoom after a short recess to enable us to hear that application rather than not be able to do it because of the conflict. I think necessarily by having both live in person, you're de facto requiring the commissioners to come live because otherwise it just doesn't make sense. And I think on a practical level, the Zoom meetings are every bit as effective because especially when you have a professional making a presentation, they share their screen. I do product demonstrations. I prefer doing them electronically because I have the other person's undivided attention. They have the screen in front of them. When you're in a group of people, you're looking at it at a distance. It's less intense. So in terms of being effective, I do believe that the Zoom meetings are every bit or even more effective than the in-person ones. And in terms of the convenience of being able to have people which would have been difficult for them to make it to the meeting, that still enables them to connect. For starters, it takes less time to get there. Further, they can be anywhere and dial in. They can be in another country and still participate. So therefore, in terms of maintaining quorums and making it accessible and easy, I think that the Zoom is a tremendous benefit.
Last question on this point on Mr. Konosendi's question. Should there be any concern on behalf of this council that, for people who don't have computers or who have computers but haven't figured out how they turn on? Is there any concern?
That's for the council. I believe the question was to the council.
I think everyone has a smartphone nowadays.
Even the phone.
Yeah.
Everyone has
Well, most of us know how to
But
work.
I think technology has made it, I mean, I've seen elderly people that know how to operate these because it's just download an app. But
Okay,
I think it's conducive.
okay, thank you. 147, 149 Broadway, Mr. Fernandez, the gentleman speaks about the property needs a cleanup.
I have that written down. I'll have code take a look.
Good, okay, thank you. And the center path. The gentleman mentioned that the center path is not in the kind of condition that would be appropriate.
Oh, Armory Park, if I may, I was present there. I know Councilwoman Maritza Colón Montañez was present. There were a number of individuals who came. There was one individual who came from Essex County who admittedly stated that he hadn't been here for 30 years and that he saw that the steps could use some improvement. The monument was washed, cleaned by DPW. The area was cleaned by DPW. The monument is just that, a monument. It's been around for a long time. We are sometimes limited and challenged with trying to preserve the historic value of a monument to the best of our ability. If it's about the steps, we will readdress it. We've done it before. We are in the spring season and we often have to address issues that were further exacerbated in terms of time of the existence, but because of weather conditions and otherwise. We will address it, but I do remember the individual, I spoke to him personally. After the conversation, he admitted he came from Newark. He hadn't been here 30 years and he saw the monument. And I said, well, you haven't seen all the improvements we've made to this monument. in the last 5 years, but without that context or perspective, I understood his statement, and I appreciate Mr. Conoscenti sharing that one individual statement, because I did speak to him personally. We will address the steps. We will have a structural analysis to see if it's compromised. As of right now, we haven't had any issues, but we will address it and we'll have it reassessed by our engineers.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to address the council?
Seeing no hands, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
and Council President Schiff.
Yes, thank you. Up to Roman numeral. Oh, it's not 6, that's 9, but it should be 6. Ordinances for second and final reading. Hearing is required. Proposed ordinance number 12441-24, an ordinance adopting a redevelopment plan for blocks 4099, lots 21, 24, and 26, corresponding to 206, 212, 216 President Street in the city of Passaic, New Jersey. Introduction and first reading was held on March 19, 2024. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
So move.
Motion, second roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Schiff.
Yes, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, the council is contemplating proposed ordinance 2441-24. If there's anyone who would like to address the council on this item and this item only? Yes, sir.
Yes, Joe Conoscenti, 170 Broadway. Yeah, I've been down at this property. It's so funny how it's torn down so quick. My question is, there's a building right next door. I think that's 218 or 219. Is that part of this deal?
No, sir. This ordinance, this proposed ordinance applies to block 4099, translating to lots 21, 24, and 26.
Yeah, because you got 206, 212, and 216.
That's it.
Yes.
And then you got 3 lots here.
The lots, this ordinance or proposed ordinance applies to those lots that are identified in this proposal.
And what are they planning to do with this property?
That, sir, is the result of their applications, which have been publicly heard, including it tonight. And I'm sorry, but I'm not in a position to translate or share
No,
that
I'm
with
just
you.
asking
It
a
has been
question.
available to you as a member of the public.
Was there any violations on this property?
The
Before they
answer
knocked
is
it down?
there could not be violations for the proposed ordinance to be before us today. Any violations would have to have been taken care of first.
Well, there had to be violations. Because if
I'm
they,
sorry, sir?
there had to be violations because it came out where there could have been termites, there could have been a lot
There
of
could have been a
other
lot of
issues.
things, but
Council
for
President, I believe he's confusing the property on President Street where there was a structural compromise and people were evacuated with this particular property. He may have the properties confused. I don't think he's on the ordinance. Forgive me, I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Mayor.
Isn't that the same property? 220?
220 is not listed on this.
Or 120?
What he's thinking about, I'm not quite sure. I don't
Oh,
want
so
to
this
put
is the
words.
same property then?
220 is not on this property
Or
list, sir.
120, whatever it is.
120 is not on this
All
list,
right.
sir. If you give us lots that are, we'd be happy to deal with it. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council, please?
Seeing no hands, move to close public comment.
Second.
Motion and second to close. Roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Schiff.
Thank you. On the ordinance, is there a maker, please?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Schiff.
Yes, thank you. We had begun conversations at the beginning of the meeting on this proposed ordinance for second and final reading. let us read it in the book and then decide how we'd like to proceed. Councilman, your light is on?
Yeah, I'll wait until you finish.
Okay, proposed an ordinance 2445-24, an ordinance amending chapter 289 of the Code of the City of Passaic entitled Trees and Shrubbery. Introduction and first reading was held on April 2, 2024. Is there a motion to open public hearing, please? Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilman Colom Montañez?
Yes.
And Council President Schiff.
Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, the council is contemplating the proposed ordinance 2445-24. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Yes, sir.
Yes, Joe Conoscente, 170 Broadway. My question on this here is, homeowners, are they responsible for curbside trees on this ordinance? Question?
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Yes.
Isn't the curb trees by the city?
I believe curb trees that are planted by the city are the city's responsibility, and curb trees which are planted by the homeowner are the homeowner's responsibility. Am I correct on that?
So the city of Passaic only deals with hazardous trees. So if there are street trees that fall under the hazard tree definition, the city takes care of those trees. But sidewalks, so for example, anything on the sidewalk, if the sidewalk is lifted, if there's an issue with it, that's a responsibility of the owner, and the city will not cut a tree that is not a hazardous tree. That is today, even before the ordinance, that is the way it is. That doesn't change with this ordinance.
Yeah, but curbside trees is not a homeowner's tree. So
If I may, Council President, I believe the business administrator was clear in terms of the impact of the tree, and this is where I think we ended up getting lost in the woods. No? Okay, no one died. Thank you, Councilman Monk. The challenge that we faced is that if a tree has the roots and it lifts up the sidewalk is property of the owner of the house. But the tree itself becomes a responsibility of government. Let's say the county decides to mill and pave, and they cut the roots of the tree. That is not the property's owner's responsibility to resolve. We can have an assessment, government takes care of it. If there's a branch that is compromised and that could fall, DPW through our tree department has to cut down those branches. If a homeowner decides that the curbside tree is something they don't like, it blocks my view, it is not the responsibility of the city to address aesthetic or personal subjective issues with the trees. Those are governed by certain DEP laws. In terms of the sidewalk itself, it belongs to the property. The tree is a public tree. The impact of it on your property, you're responsible. The city would not pay to deal with anything that is not a public safety concern outside of our responsibility. I think that's clear.
If you'll forgive me, Councilman, I just want to know if that answers the gentleman's question.
yeah, I guess so. My other question I
No,
have
no,
is,
no, no, now I've got to yield to my council member, I'm sorry.
oh, okay.
Councilman Garcia.
What about the roots going into the sewer line? Who's responsible for that?
So it depends where the sewer line is, if it's in your yard or not your yard. But if it's on the street, we take care of it because it becomes a public safety hazard. If it's in your backyard, we'll fix our sewer line, but the health of the tree is your responsibility if it's on your private property.
Council President, just on this topic of trees on the, I was always under the impression that a tree that's by the curb, you're not allowed to even trim it. without city permission.
Unless it
Right.
causes a public safety concern. So during storms, trees become compromised. We'll see a branch that's broken, it's heavy, it can fall on a car or moving vehicle. We have an obligation, a duty to address it immediately. Because of the extenuating circumstances, we're not required to ask for permission. We can address any public safety issue in government, in the community, and then deal with it later. However, again, I reiterate, any concern of the public, and I understand the sidewalk, when nature is the cause, it's like snow. It comes down from nature. It's your sidewalk. You're going to have to shovel it. You're going to have to put salt on it. If you don't, you're responsible for the fall. You don't get to say it's an act of nature. Why didn't the government come and shovel it? If a root on the tree raises your sidewalk, if it breaks a line in your home, and case by case, you have every right to come to government and say, I think the city should have to pay for it. Our attorneys will consider it. The court will determine whether we're responsible. But in terms of policy and approach, it is not government's approach to address trees on sidewalks. Some people plant trees, certain businesses put them themselves, certain schools, they're beautiful, but they're not our responsibility.
So, but a homeowner is allowed to trim it without.
Not on the curb,
It's not on the curb, a tree on the curb.
unless it's a public, we're not allowed to trim it unless it's a public safety concern. That governs everybody.
So let's say for lighting, it's blocking the street light, therefore the sidewalk is dark, and that becomes a public.
That becomes subjective in terms of the determination by the homeowner, what is sufficient light. We would refer that to the attorney. Public safety concerns, obviously, and if one says not enough lighting could cause a danger in that hypothetical, as opposed to a tangible or easily identifiable public safety concern of a branch that may fall on someone, we can address the lighting, but there would be a request whether we could trim the tree.
Councilman Miller, please.
So, just have a quick question. So if, as a homeowner, I would like a cherry blossom tree in front of my house, can I plant it?
Where in front of your house, your property or the
No, my
sidewalk?
sidewalk, my sidewalk.
You have to come, because let's be clear on sidewalk.
No, just.
No,
just-
I think it's a great question, but I think it's important for people who watch to understand, because we're sometimes
Yeah.
privy to information. Trees aren't planted on the sidewalk, right? The
You know,
sidewalk
like
is
the
for you to
little piece
walk.
with the-
Of course.
the
No,
piece where
but the
you
reason,
have-
because I know what you mean, but people may not understand why they're
Oh,
using the
okay.
term.
Oh, yes.
The sidewalk, one of the biggest complaints, and
crap.
this is a little bit off, with some of the work of our utility companies is they're encroaching too much on the sidewalk. There is a
Mayor,
portion.
I've got to direct you, believe it or not, forgive me, I don't. mean
Of
to
course,
be-
I know examples can be considered outside of, but I just want to clarify. So in terms of the sidewalk, no, you cannot plant a tree on the actual sidewalk where you're walking. In that space between the sidewalk and the street, there's a portion of land where typically people plant trees or you can find trees. If you wish to plant a tree there and it is your property, you can. The ordinance reads that if you remove a tree, you have a responsibility to request a permit. There are city ordinances for planting trees in terms of how tall they must be. So it is a process and the government is involved, but that is not this ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Right,
you.
and if I may add, the tree and you planting the tree is dependent on our planting schedule. So I know you're seeing this ordinance as something new, but we do this all the time in developments that we require them to plant.
I'm going to correct you, Mr. Fernandez. This is not that. This proposed ordinance does not have reference to prior
Stay on the ordinance.
acts of legislation.
All right,
Members of the council, it seems to me that we've got some questions here. The question I would ask as presiding officers, do we wish to get additional clarity by having the department come to us, to speak to us and to give us clarity? Are we prepared to make a decision tonight without that? Mouse, what the disposition of the council is.
Council President?
Councilman Mo.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes, I had the liberty to just look around a little bit, and this was pushed off, this requirement for municipalities to pass this ordinance was from January 1st to May 1st of 2024. There is such a, out from the state, there is this requirement that's out there. However, I do question this in terms of the completeness of this ordinance. because under hazard tree, under the definition of hazard tree, it says a tree or limb thereof that meet one or more of the criteria below. And I don't see the definition.
There's 1 through 4.
Look at the new sheet. If you're looking at your packet, you don't
Right.
have
I don't have.
the sheet that was
Oh, okay.
So it's
Okay,
as an
that's the first
infectious
one.
disease or insect infestion.
It's just you
Oh,
looking at
I look at the packet. I don't
So
see it here.
that sheet that you got here.
I don't have.
Here, right here.
It's about
I got 'em.
two-thirds
I got
down.
him. I got him.
Oh, okay.
Right there.
Got it. Okay.
So that is the hazard tree, so if that's in your yard, you don't need to do a replacement,
Mhm.
and you don't need to get a permit. So if it's a danger, and it falls under this, we can remove it.
So, and who defines, I mean, what makes me very uncomfortable with this whole ordinance, again, the good thing is nothing to do with the city, okay? It has nothing to do with our city attorney, it has to do with the state level, okay? Is that it's so vague. For, as an example, I see under the hazard tree, insect infestation. Now, who determines what's infestation? Are black ants considered infestation? Or does it have to be those, one of those last three we had last year?
So, we have a tree crew. You're not allowed to cut a healthy tree down.
Right.
We have a tree crew that assesses whether or not the tree is unhealthy. That would be the process in terms of the permit application. Now, if I may be specific on the ordinance, the request from the state is simply that we pass an ordinance, every municipality to do so by May 1st. The implementation is left to the municipality. In fact, the exact meaning of the directive from the DEP says that any municipality that does not create its own, similar to this, is requested to adopt this directive. In terms of the implementation, again, and I'll leave this to the obvious wisdom and refer to the council president, and the attorney. Anything that is passed in the city, I believe there's a time period before it's implemented. I believe it's 20 days. That passing it would allow us to be in line with the state and still have the council question how it gets implemented, because we can't implement it unless we determine how. I do believe that there are concerns from the council that are legitimate. Fees, who's going to assess this? But the only request from the state, I'm sorry, the mic's not on. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Feel free to throw something at me or yell at me. I don't know. Because she keeps having to tell us. Again, back to what I was saying, the implementation is up to the council. The only request that we have, and the reason why we placed it, is because the state directed every municipality to pass it by May 1st. But it would not be in effect until 20 days, and the implementation would be up to the governing body.
I'm going to come back.
Yeah, that exactly.
In all due respect, this conversation can go on for as long as we would like it to go on. The question is, do we want conversation to continue to go on, or do we find a need of additional clarity that we don't have at our hands right now, where we would rather make that decision at a future meeting?
My only question, Council President, would we be able to accomplish this by May 1st? Is that the projection date to try to get this done?
I feel confident that the state will not look at us adversely if
we
ordinance
dismiss
is not
it.
passed.
Okay.
Council President.
Councilman Monk.
I honestly, I don't know what will help to wait to pass this in June or July or August or in 3 years. The bottom line is the state has presented something which, the way I read it, makes no sense, right? And it's not gonna make any more sense in 90 days. And the state also, I was just looking online, basically gave this verbiage exactly what we gotta pass. So it is what it is. I mean, welcome to Big Brother government. This is what it is. I mean, it's, I read this thing 10 times, 20 times. I don't know how many times I read it. I still don't understand it. So, I don't know.
What is your recommendation, Councilman? Should we proceed with the vote tonight? Should we seek additional clarification?
I think we vote on it because we're not having any more, we should get clarification in terms of how the city to understand it better. But at the end of the day, we're gonna have to pass exact language as what we see here tonight. This is, I just checked. In fact, there's one thing that's missing what the state actually put in there. That is if the, if they determine that it cannot be replaced, so then a person needs to replant a tree in a designated area approved by a municipality. This is under B5, replacement alternatives. If the municipality determines that some or all required replacement trees cannot be planted on the property where the tree removal activity occurred, then the applicant shall plant replacement trees in a separate area approved by a municipality. The state also has a line in there that instead of replanting a tree, the municipality could also just charge a fee.
I think that was optional. And that was an option.
I'm going to ask Councilman, would you prefer that we vote tonight or at a future time?
I mean, I would vote on it tonight.
Councilman Love.
I'm fine with voting on it tonight.
Council-
As I usually do, it, ordinances that I don't completely understand, I pass it back to administration.
Councilwoman Miller.
Do it tonight, and if we could get someone down the line to come and explain it from the state.
Councilman Schwartz.
That would depend. If this is the exact verbiage which the state will require, period, that is one thing. If it's that we need to pass something similar to this and we can tweak it to things make sense. For example, the ability to pay a fee. I had a gigantic class 4 tree next to my building and I want to extend my patio and I can't. That would require me to plant 4 other trees on my little piece of property that I don't have room for. Because the exemption of 4 trees is only through class 3. Class 4, I'm on my own. If I'm trying to develop a piece of property and the property just happens to have 10 trees on it, I can't do my development because where am I going to plant 10 other trees? Again, don't take this wrong. I think trees are good and it's important to encourage them. What I have a problem with is ramming it down people's throat in a way which coerces them and restricts them. It should be something which there are incentives to do. It should be something which the municipality helps with. Like if we can have a alternate of this, which enables one to pay a fee, which would establish a fund to put a tree somewhere else, then that would meet the objective, because now you know what? That's the cost of doing business. We need to replenish trees. Okay, for whatever practical reasons.
Councilman, forgive me. Would you like to vote on this tonight or would you prefer to be postponed?
Councilman, the question that you asked regarding the decision, yes, it's the exact verbiage, as you said. Is it the exact verbiage? Yes.
But it's missing the fee option.
The fee is an option. It's not required by this. It's only an option. So
I would prefer to vote on an ordinance which has a fee option as an alternative.
Yeah.
And if that would push it off a meeting, I would prefer to do that.
Councilman Garcia?
I guess we can vote on it and with condition. We can come back later. and see.
No, sir. This is an ordinance being proposed by the state.
Then I'm good. Then I'm good.
Councilwoman Montañez?
I'm good.
Good. Is there a motion to accept the ordinance?
So moved.
Can I just make some more comments? We're voting on it. Can I make some comments on it?
Maritza said she thought you spoke.
I can certainly allow it, but I don't see its utility, Councilman.
Well, I mean, Councilman Schwartz makes a very interesting point about adding this fee is in. I just like to know
You
why.
cannot add,
Okay,
this is
so,
an ordinance of the state.
so I'd like to understand from administration why we wouldn't. And the other thing is when I read the state requirements, I didn't see it as an option. It had listed them both there.
Oh, the fee options for the
Yeah.
municipality? That can be added on as an ordinance by this council.
So why don't we, why?
Not for this. But that you can create an ordinance dictating the fee. The fee request, and forgive, I'm cognizant of the time and the desire to go into vote, but we have a law that we have to charge for every child in recreation. Our policy by the council, so we have an alternative approach. We can do that with any ordinance. That is the purview and the liberty of the council to determine, but that is not covered here. We are not obligated to create a fee. We are only passing the language they gave us verbatim. They received
The
it. They-
verbatim language includes a fee, an option for a fee.
This was sent to the DEP.
I'm looking online. I said.
No, but this was sent
This
to
was
the
sent to them.
DEP without adding additional fees, understanding the situation with fees.
Yeah, they gave us a green light to present this.
Right,
with
this
no
was
fee.
approved by the
What you're voting on is what is before you.
Yes.
Okay.
Not any,
Okay, so can I get some clarification before I vote, please?
please.
Does this ordinance only apply if you have an acre of land?
No.
So what does it mean in the ordinance? Any person who removes one or more trees is defined in tree removal with a DBH of 6 inches or more per acre. What does that mean per acre? Yeah, a B2, be under B2. V2.
It's huge. I'm sorry.
So this is for the tree replacement schedule, not necessarily the permit fee of the tree.
So to replace tree replacement,
You see the section C as well.
right? So that means I only have to replace a tree if I have an acre or more of land? If I have less than how many, I don't think that many parcels in the city of Passaic have an acre.
Well, that's where the mayor started off saying there's very few
Instances
instances
where
there
we
we
would
would need.
So I just for clarity, Council President, if I can ask council, please, if the way I understand this ordinance, you only have to replace trees if you own an acre or land. If your lot is 1 acre or larger,
I don't think it would be interpreted that way. The way I'm reading this is if it's 4 trees per acre.
no, before we get
so
to
the-
4 trees per acre, under B2,
C1, you're looking at
B2.
C1,
No, B2,
I'm sorry. B2.
any person,
Any removes more trees as defined as tree removal with a DBH of 6 or more per acre. Per acre.
per acre. Are there any lots in the city of Passaic that have trees that are an acre or larger?
Well, there are lots. There's
There-
not many lots,
maybe-
but there are
maybe a
lots that
handful?
are tree or acre. But remember, it also takes you to C. And if you go to C1, residents who remove less than 4 trees per acre,
Per acre again.
right,
So
that
again,
fall into category 1, 2, or 3 of the tree replacement schedule table within a 5-year period.
so
So
you,
you're limited in the amount, and that's what the mayor stated that at the beginning of the meeting. There's not,
for
So
council,
you
so
have-
any lot that's less than an acre, this ordinance does not apply to.
1 or more trees per acre, so yeah.
So
Again,
let's get
Council,
this-
I want to be clear, when you
I
say
wanna
the
get this-
ordinance, aspects of the ordinance do not apply. The request to remove a tree may apply, the replacement does not.
Okay, so
So I just want to
let's-
be clear that we're giving
okay,
the
so-
exact answer to the question.
So let's just break this down a little bit. I don't know of any home in the city of Passaic, that sits on an acre of land.
Yes, that's where I started.
Does not
Very few,
exist.
yes.
Therefore, just for clarity, publicly here on the record, there's no homeowner that would have to replace trees based on this ordinance that's being proposed tonight.
If no one has an acre or more,
I don't think
that's
there's
correct.
I don't think there's
There are some property owners perhaps, but not homeowners.
yeah, I don't.
I didn't say
I don't
price,
wanna- I don't want to paint with
homeowners. I'll say
a
homeowners.
broad brush.
There are property owners.
Property owners, but no homeowners. There's not one lot in the city of Passaic that has a home, that has a house, okay, that is on an acre of land.
I don't know that to be 100% true.
I'm pretty comfortable saying
So
that.
and I don't want to get into the weeds, but if you have a parsonage and a church, and that is your specific property and the lot and the property as a whole is an acre, you are responsible, or the owning institution or agency is responsible. But there is no single homeowner that we know of, off the top of our head, that has more than an acre. So we
Okay.
don't want to make
Okay,
absolute statements.
fine. The next point I like to make is, I have too much time, Council President, this week, is that if you cut down, right, that's for replacement. So pretty much there's no homeowner in the city of Passaic will have to replace any trees. The next part here is to remove a tree, you have to go for an application. Now, if you remove less than 4 trees per acre, you don't have, you're exempt. There's exemptions here, which means if I want to take down 3 trees in my backyard, right?
Class threes.
Under class 1, 2, or 3, right? Unless it's this big,
Unless you have like
a real big, then you don't even have to apply. You don't even have to go to City Hall. There's no application fee. It's exempt.
That's correct.
Okay.
And also, very small trees are exempt completely.
Good.
So if they're less than a 6-inch diameter,
Right.
they're exempt.
So,
So you could move 10 of those,
Yeah.
or however many.
right,
you
but
want.
if you move class 2 or class 3, you could do 4 per every 5 years. So now, which means that if I take down 3 of them, okay, this year, and in 3 years I want to take down another 3, right? I know my microphone is on here, but I have to keep record of when I cut the first 3 down, because if the city comes in 4 years, they say, oh, you're taking down a tree. Did you cut any other in the last 4 years? They have to find which trees I cut down in the last 4 years, right? I mean, so basically what I'm saying is,
Practically speaking, are we counting trees? Are we going to have individuals going and counting trees? Councilman, if I may, again, we were asked by the state to pass an ordinance regarding this directive to all the municipalities. I preface my statements by saying very few instances this is actually going to apply to. We've looked at it, our attorney looked at it. It seems to be something that is not going to adversely impact, and the council still keeps the authority to determine the approach we're going to take, whether fees, if somebody's home does have an acre and we didn't know about it, and we have 10 trees and they cut down 4, and this council says, look, let's pay for it, let's provide opportunities for people in need. You still have that right, but all we have before us is a directive from the state. I will admit and confess publicly, I would not have come up with this mandate, nor am I interested in creating mandates, nor do I want to be against the council. We are here to present what we were told. This is not a debate between us and the council. We just go, the state told us, we see it online, we verified that it is a directive. It came from a legitimate agency, the DEP, and other municipalities have passed. We don't have a meeting after the deadline, so we brought it to you.
And Mayor, if I
I
may
think
add,
I made my
on
point.
that note, it's a blanket ordinance from the state. This is not targeted at cities, as you can tell. So that's where we're at. And it's part of the stormwater management that we are required by law, in jeopardy of penalties and lack of permits if we don't
I think that's
pass.
clear. I mean, obviously, we received $5 million, 1.6. We're very excited working. If I expressed it with a lot of zeal, it's just that we're receiving money for environmental issues and flooding issues. So again, but it will not impact a great deal of properties. We don't even know if it would impact any as of right now.
Councilman Schwartz.
I'm fine. I'm sorry.
And besides, with the latest infestation
Anyone
of
else
those,
who would like to
what do you call
comment?
A little distracted.
Do we have a
every tree is
motion
infested.
on the proposal?
Yes, I moved it.
We have a motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Colom Montañez?
Yes.
Council President Shan?
Regretfully,
Now we
I
need
have,
a motion
I
and a
will
second to
vote.
adopt.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
We need a motion and a second to adopt. That was just to close the public portion.
That was to close.
Yes,
Yes, to close.
So-
Is there a maker of the motion? No? Okay.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second on the motion.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilman Colom Montañez?
Yes.
And Council President Shan?
Regretfully, I must vote no.
I believe. Okay.
We are up to Roman numeral 7 of our agenda, communications, items 3 through 6. Are there any questions, please, on 3 through 6? Seeing no lights, is there a motion, please, to accept 3 through 6?
Move it.
Motion?
Council President, if I may, 6 and 7, she may want to.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. On 3 through 5, I apologize.
I got you.
Yeah, move.
Is there a second,
It has
please?
to be you. One of you guys.
Second.
Motion and second on 3 through 5.
Second.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. On 6 and 7, if there are no questions, is there a motion, please, to accept 6 and 7?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Abstention.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez, and Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. All matters listed hereunder considered to be routine in nature. Items 8 through 14. Are there any questions, please, on 8 through 14? Seeing none, is there a motion, please, to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Mello.
Yes. My sorry, my
Councilman
kids.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Garcia, Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. We are up to resolutions, Roman numeral 8 on our agenda, item 15. Authorize closed executive session. Madam, do we need closed executive?
No, Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez?
No, Council President.
Mr. Mayor, sir?
None at this time, Council President.
Members of the council. Very good. If we can then turn our kind attention to items 16 through 28. Are there any questions, please, on 16 through 28? Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept items 16 through 28?
So moved.
Motion and, is there a second, please?
Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. We're up to Roman numeral 9 on our agenda, ordinances for introduction and first reading, number 29. Proposed ordinance amending the designation of restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate number. Is there a motion, please, to accept for set down for second and final reading at our meeting of May 7?
Move it.
Motion
Second.
and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. Number 30, please. Proposed ordinance amending Chapter 259, Streets and Sidewalks of the City of Passaic Municipal Code to include requirements for keeping the sidewalks adjacent to handicapped parking areas clear. Is there a motion, please, to accept for set down for second and final reading at our meeting of May 7?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please. And
Councilman
this is
Monk,
not,
Yes.
this does not deal with trees, right? Okay, good.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. Number 31, please. An ordinance authorizing a short-term tax exemption for property identified on the official tax map of the City of Passaic as Block 3220, Lot 27, corresponding to 437 Paulson Avenue in the City of Passaic. Is there a motion, please, to accept for set down for second and final reading? at our meeting of May
So
7?
moved, Council President.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shield.
Yes, thank you. Payment of bills. Are there any questions on the bills? No. Seeing none, is there a motion, please, to accept the bills as presented?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and second, thank you.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Short,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colom Montañez,
Yes.
and Council President Shay.
Yes, thank you. Administrators report, Mr. Fernandez.
None at this time, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Over the last month, we have celebrated a number of holidays in our city. We wish the very best to our Indian American community as they celebrated Holi, and the same to our Muslim American communities as they finish their time of fasting of Ramadan, and as we look to our Jewish community in Passaic, wishing the very best during this Passover holiday with your families and friends. We continue to celebrate the great diversity of our city as we support one another and move forward. I want to thank this city council for all of their support for the many different activities that have occurred celebrating all of our communities. Our parks are often utilized during the Holi Festival. The community came out to utilize our parks, and throughout the year, so many organizations and groups are participating in activities during the Easter, or what is often referred to as Resurrection Sunday. There were a number of processions in our city, and we continue to appropriately support and highlight our diversity as we're here for all. Thank you very much. That is the extent of my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council?
Council President, quick point. A few meetings back, we had that funding that went for housing. We wanted to get the company that facilitates it here to the meeting.
Councilman, a little bit louder, please.
I'm sorry, like a few meetings back, we had this funding that we use towards housing, and we wanted to get the company that administrates it to come to the council again.
Get insight.
To understand how the funding is handled and then different regulations, see if we could maybe be more creative, how to use those funds.
Yes, Councilman Monk, we are aware and recall specific, we will have the person who administers and underwrites that be here present for the next council
Oh, great.
meeting, if
Thank
that
you.
is,
Thank you.
so you wish.
Excellent.
Yes.
Sure, thank you.
We'll make sure to have that. And also, thank you before you close, Council President, if I may, to all those watching, those who celebrate and observe, please remember that on next Monday, next Tuesday, we will have additional trucks out for pickup to please have the hours sent out appropriately as we want to make sure that we coordinate. Thank you.
There being no other business publicly advertised as required by law, is there a motion to adjourn, please?
Move it.
Motion,
Second.
motion and second, roll call to adjourn.
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.